In this video, we're going to complete our company dashboard by filling out the third group that we have on this page for company information as well as the user's own information. So updating things like the company name, their website, their logo, as well as the user's email address, their name, and even their password. So we're going to take this group tab 3, rename it to say group account, have all account settings here. And we'll also remove this placeholder and get it set up so that it's matching the other groups up above. So the groups up above are a little bit wider in their width. I believe we have a max width set to 1000 pixels, and we have some 30 pixel padding on the top and bottom boundaries here of the group. Right, so now we have our starting point. And what I'm going to do in this group is very similar to the previous groups, which is have a left and right side. So on the left, we'll manage company information. On the right, we'll manage user information. So I'll just make sure that my group account container is also set to a row layout style. That way we have a left and a right side. Let's take a look at the one before, right? That's the setting there. And also the alignment is set to the space around option. So I'll do the same thing down here, space around. And just to get things started for me, I'm going to take these two groups, the left and right, from my previous container for the application management, right click, copy these. I'm only copying the elements, visual designs. I'm not copying any workflows because we're going to do very different workflows here. And then right click and paste them. That way I just have some containers to get me started, but I'm pretty much going to clear these all out and then redesign them for this account setting. Now I'm going to turn off the visibility here in my editor of the first two groups just so that I have some more breathing room to work with my account group only. All right, so on the left side, I want to manage the company information list. So let's get rid of these elements here. They're not necessary. And I am going to give this a little bit of a heading, a subheading, right? So when we click on tab 3, we'll view our account group. But I do want the user to be very clear and understand that the left side is for company information, okay, and the right side will be for user information. So let's change the styling just a little bit. I'm going to make this bold, and let's increase the font size to about, let's say 16 point here. Now you might have noticed a slight change to the way Bubble manages fonts. They've split up the font family from the font weight into two separate drop downs so that you have a little bit more granular control and it's a bit easier to select. So you'll start to see those throughout your text elements. Okay, so I'm going to go into the layout settings of this header here, center it inside of the parent, remove the fixed width settings so that it just fits its width around the content. I'll get rid of the minimum width as well as getting rid of the minimum height. Now it's perfectly centered. And the boundaries of that text element fit directly around the content. Now that that's set up to a place where I like it, I'm going to copy this and paste it into the other side so that we can see, let me see where my information went, but I want to be able to edit that text. All right, so there we go. So this group was hidden. Let's see if we can find that text. It might have not actually copied. Oh, there it is. It's right there. Let me move this back into this group for a second and we'll clear out these elements from my copy. We don't need those there. We're also going to do, yes, clear that one out and then bring this text back. Okay, so now we can give this a subheading of, let's say, my information, like that. Now I'm going to copy the same background style here to this company information section as well, just so that it's very clear we have two sections within our larger account group. Now you've seen that I've done this a couple of different ways between all three of our primary containers. This is more to show you how you can mix and match things and really customize how you want these things to display. So I'm going to right click this group, copy the formatting, right click and paste the formatting on the other group. And so now their background styles match. And so the user will be able to see some separation between these two sections. Okay, so let's get started with adding some inputs here for our company info. Now, I do have some inputs that I can pull from to make this creation a little bit easier for me. Let's go back to the jobs management and then open up the edit window. Remember, we had some field labels as well as inputs here inside of a group so that all of the formatting is set up for me and I can easily copy and paste those. So I'm going to grab from this one here, right click and copy those inputs. I'll close down my jobs group again and then come into the company information group and paste that design there. Now I have a nice starting point. It saves me a little bit of time. So for this first one, I'm going to have the user manage the company name. All right, and so see how the width of that text expanded because this text is also fitting to content. There's no max, there's no minimum, and it's certainly not fixed. The input, will relabel the input to say input company name. By default, our initial content will pull from the user's company's company name. Now, for the data sources, I'm going to reconnect these after I've designed all of the inputs, so we'll circle back to this. I'm going to clear out the input for now. And now I'm going to take this group, let's also clear these out, and copy it so I can have a few other inputs in place. So this one will be for the website of the company. We'll rename the input as well so that it's clear. This is for the website. And then down below, we'll have this one be for the location. And let's actually swap out this input for a search box. I'm going to right-click this, replace by another type, and we'll select the search box element because this will let me search locations. Bubble has a built-in integration with Google Places, makes it really easy to get addresses in there. Okay, and so this one, we just need to make sure that we relabel it search box location. And I'm going to go ahead and set the choice style to geographic places so that it knows to start auto-suggesting locations as I type in street addresses or even just cities or zip codes. It's very flexible. I'm also going to add one more element here to the company information, which is a photo uploader so that the user can upload their company's logo. Right, and I'm going to I just placed it in there so that I can then mess with the dimensions from here. So let's rename this to say company logo. And for this one, I'm going to center it inside of my form. And let's make the, let's see here, which one do we want to use? Yeah, let's just set the fixed width setting so that it's a perfect square. Let's do 200 by 200. That way they can edit their logo and they can see it very clearly. All right, and then we'll have a button to save all of our changes for the left side of this group, so all the company info. So I'll center this here, and we'll call this Save Changes, like this, and that will trigger a workflow to save all of these details. Okay, so now we have that side of the form created. Now we're going to go over to the right side. Actually, before I do that, let's go ahead and set up the data source for being able to populate the initial contents. So one way that I could do this is to locate the company every single time within each input. I could insert dynamic data and say, show me the current user's company's name, like this. Another way that I could do this to save myself a little bit of time and also help me stay consistent is to give this group here a data source pointing to the company, right? So if the type of content is company, my data source can be the current user's company, and now everything inside can simply reference its parent. So this group would be type company, and the data source is parent group's company. Same thing for all of these. Let's just copy those over, right? Parent group's company, this one as well, parent group's company. And the initial contents would pull from their parent, which is these inner groups here. So the initial content for the name is going to be the parent group's company's name. Here, it will be the parent group's company's this is the website, and for the location, we want in the default value, parent group's company's location, just like that. So that keeps things very consistent because you've only defined the source once. Now this becomes even more helpful when your data sources have to come from searches. So rather than having multiple searches in all of these different inputs, I mean, imagine a big form with many inputs and a search that might be more complex. Having one singular location with the data source keeps things neat and tidy, efficient, better performing, and also less room for error on your part. I'm going to relabel the group on the left over here to say group company info, and I'll also relabel the group on the right to say group my info, like that. This one does not need a data type. And then the last piece here for the initial content is the image. Now this one isn't sitting inside of a group, it doesn't really need to, but we'll set the default image here, the dynamic image, to be the parent group's company's logo. So it is still able to pull from a group because it's sitting inside of this outer group here on the left side. All right, so let's do the information on the right for the user. So we'll want to display the user's email address and name, but also give them the ability to change those things as well as their password. So there's a couple ways to do this, because with changing credentials, your email address or password, you do need to provide the existing password. It's a security layer. So we want to dynamically show the user when to type in their password in order to make those changes. We don't necessarily want to have those inputs visible at all times. So let's start by adding a copy of this input to see how we want to lay things out here just by default. So this first one is going to be the email address for the user. And here the input will be a text. We'll rename this to say email address. Definitely want to make sure the format is set to an email. And then the initial content is just going to be the current user's email. Notice how we don't need to set a data source to the group, because you will always have access to the current user. That will never go away from your list of dynamic choices. So there's no need to create, other layers of just getting back to the same record. Bubble has this as a shortcut for you. Okay, so there's our email address. Let's see, these groups don't need data sources, so I'm going to remove those things there. I'm going to copy this and now display the user's first name, and this will be the user's first name. This is a text. We'll relabel this first name. You'll notice that, every step of the way, I'm checking all of these different components, right? The name of the element, the content format of the input, the initial content. It's more than just designing them on the page. If you create good habits and, do all of your housekeeping as you go around your designs, everything will be much more organized. It will make your development much more efficient, because things are easy to find, they're organized as they go, and you're not going to lose yourself or cross wires accidentally. All right, so let's do last name here. It may feel tedious, but you're gonna have to do it at some point anyway. It's better to, not create extra work for yourself. It's just good development best practices. Current user's last name, the input here is the last name. And I think those are the only things that I want to display here. I mean, you can follow the pattern. So if there's other information for the user, like a profile picture or a phone number or something, you'll just follow the same things. But we've got 3 inputs here to work from. Now, I'm going to have a button as well here to save changes for the user. But I'm going to relabel this so that we can keep it apart from the other button. We'll say update my information like this. Okay. Now, if the user makes a change to their email address, we need to provide an input to type in their current password. That way, they're prompted to authorize essentially this important security change. So I'm going to create another group here that is going to be conditionally visible. And to make it even clearer for the user, I'm going to actually change the background color of this group. Let's maybe make it something that really calls their attention, maybe a light yellow type of background here. And I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. We're going to remove the settings so that it actually extends to the full width of the group. Now I can see that it's not doing that because we have padding on the left and right side of our group, which is fine. So what I can do instead is just push these elements in. I can actually create padding on the inner group. So let's do 20 pixels here, not on the top. Well, actually, let's do that. Let's do 10 pixels all the way around of padding. The only thing that I'm trying to get at here is just to have this appear more like an alert window, an alert box that pops up and makes it very clear to the user that some action needs to be taken. Okay, so this text that we have here for the last name will say enter password to continue. Enter current password. How about that? Enter current password to continue. And this input is simply going to be a password format with no initial content. This is just something that they're going to have to type into. And we'll call this input current password, like that. Okay, now this group, like I said, is only necessary if they're changing their email address. They shouldn't really need to type in their password for their first and last name, although if you want it to work that way, you certainly can have that happen. But I'm going to show you how to make this group hidden by default, right? We'll turn off that visibility. We'll also collapse it when it's hidden. And in the condition, let's rename this here to say group confirm with password. So in the condition for this group, we'll say if the input email address's value is not the same as the current user's email, right? We're recognizing that a change has been made. Then we're going to make this group visible. Remember, the group by default is hidden. So I'm going to preview the page so that you can see what this looks like at this point, where we have this conditional group appearing before we trigger any workflows, just so that we can let the user know. I should rename my tabs up here. So tab 3, it looks like our right side isn't visible, probably because I copied it from our application management and we had a condition on this group so that it shows only when it has a data source. So I'm going to go to the condition on this group here and remove it, and then make sure that it is visible at all times. And while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and rename my tabs. So this was jobs, and this is applications, and this will be account settings, right? Okay, so let's refresh and head over to our account settings. There we go, right? So here, I'm not seeing any information because I'm not running as anyone right now. I'm not logged in. But I'm going to go into my database and run as a user that has a relationship with a company, and of course also has personal information here. Okay, so I'll head over to my users table and let's run as Ross again here, because Ross is tied to a company and has name values inserted there. Notice that we also have a phone number and profile picture. So those are other inputs that I could be adding to this area as well. Okay, I can see Ross's email on the right side there, and we see all of this information filled in. There's the company name, website, location, our logo, there's his email, and first and last name. So let's say Ross changes his email to rossgeller@sample.com, and I'm not able to, well, I haven't hooked up the logic around the button yet, but the idea is if we don't have a password in there, or if they enter in the wrong password, they are not able to proceed. So let's continue with that configuration there. So the update my information button, when it's triggered, and let's put this in a new folder here for account. Okay, we ultimately want to make a change to the user or we want to make a change to their credentials. But the very first thing that we would need to do is check their password. You can find this under account here, check password for the current user, and the password to check is the input that we've added for the current password. Now again, we only want to do this if they have to make a credential change. Okay, so we can put this condition and say, if we see that password group is visible, we know that there is some credential change that they're making. Right now, we've only configured it to the email address being updated. We'll do the password changes in a moment. So let's see here. So if this group with password, oh, it's not giving me a visibility condition. That's okay. We can go off of the same condition we used for that group. So if the inputs value is not the current user's email, then we know that we need to check their password. Okay. Now, if their password is incorrect, if they left it blank or if they typed in the wrong password, the rest of the workflow will not run. All right. Now, if they pass it correctly, if they enter in their correct password, then the rest of the workflow will run, and we can make the following changes. We'll make a change to the credentials. So this will be an update user credential action right here. The old password is going to be what they have already typed in, right? This is why we needed to check the password anyway, was because this action requires the old password. And then changing the email is going to be the new email input, just like that. Okay, and again, that is only if they need to make those adjustments. So we'll do the same thing here. If the email address's value is not the current user's email address, then it will run this. Otherwise, it skips this, and the only thing left to do is make changes to the rest of the normal, not as sensitive values. So making a change to the current user here, and we've got first name, last name. We'll also be able to update our combined full name field at the same time. So first name will be input first name's value, last name will be input, last name's value, and full name will be the combination of both. Input, let me select the right one, first name's value, I'll just click in here, not in the dynamic composer, just here in the input, right? So where I can see my cursor and hit a space and then insert right after that the last name's value. So now I've captured everything. So again, if they're making a change to a credential, it's going to check for their password and then it's going to update their credentials. If they're not, then it's going to skip these two steps and just do this. Okay, let's see here. Now let's go to, well, let's make sure that we show an alert message once they are done with that so that visually the user can see that it's all good to go. So remember, we do have an alert on this page and we're just going to show that same alert message. The default messaging there works for me because it just says your changes have been saved. Okay, so we'll add that to the end. So now let's see how we want to do this with updating a password, right? So I would actually introduce a separate group for them to select rather than to kind of always have an input open. Of course, we don't want to expose a password you wouldn't be able to anyway. Passwords are secure. You have no access to your users' passwords. But I'm going to do a copy of this group here. And how about we have this text that says update password. And this will be underlined so that they have to click on it. Well, we can say a little bit more intentionally here, click to update password. And what that will do is reveal a new password input. Okay, so this is going to be a password input here. We'll call this input new password, as well as a confirmation password, confirm password. And we'll put some placeholders inside of these. So we'll say new password in there, and this will say confirm new password. You can, of course, continue with the same design of adding these labels, but I'm going to set it up a little bit differently where these have placeholders just so you can see, a different approach for these things. And I'm also going to change the background color of this group so that it sort of functions similar to how we did the check password down below. So I'm just actually going to copy the same color and give this one a background as well. And I'm also going to do the same padding controls so that it's more like a standalone operation away from all of the user's regular details. I'm designing this on the fly, okay? So if you want this to look differently, there's many ways to go about putting this together. The main thing that I'm trying to keep in mind is having the user very clearly see their own details, and when it's time to make a change, then reveal the stuff that we want at that point, rather than showing everything all at the same time. So the idea is they'll see only this text first, and then when they click on it, we'll view these inputs here. So I can put these two inputs inside of a group of their own and toggle the visibility and of course collapsing its height and expanding its height as I click on that text. So I'm going to group these in a column container, all right, and I'm going to create a little bit of gap spacing here, just 10 pixels between them. And I want to make sure that by default this group is hidden and it collapses when hidden. We'll call the group, let's say, new password, like this. And when we click on this text, okay, let's start and edit a workflow from there. This is going to go into our account folder. When we click on this text, we will simply toggle that group, that innermost group that I just created, group new password. All right, so let's just take a quick look at what we have there. Okay, so I'll go to the account, and you see here, click to update password, and it shows, if I click on it back and forth, it just shows and hides. What I could also do is change conditionally the text here so that when it's open, it says something different. For example, let's go here. In the condition, I can say when that group, our inner group, this one down here that contains these inputs, when this is visible, the text will display click to discard password change, like that. click to discard password change. And what we can also do inside of the workflow is we can reset that group so that it clears out anything that I might have typed in to truly discard the change, get rid of it. And if they want to start over, they can start over from there. So we're going to reset our group new password every single time. All right, so I'll show you that behavior. Go back to account, click to update. So if I start to type something in, start typing something in, okay, and if I click on this again, right, and then click on it again, you see how it has cleared everything, and you're also seeing how our conditional text is changed. Now, if this group is visible to change the password, we also need the current password. We won't be able to modify our password without typing in the current password. So I'm going to add another condition to this group. Not only do we want it to be visible if the email address is recognizing a change, but also if our password group is present. So new password here, if that is visible, then this is also visible at the same time. Oops, there we go. Now it's checking. All right, so let's refresh the page here and just see that behavior. Count. Okay, so click password, and here you can see the new password is displayed at the same time. Right, discard password change, and that all goes away. So the idea here is only revealing what we need, which helps the user understand what is required in order to make changes. If they're only changing their first name and last name, notice that there's no need to type in their current password, because again, in the workflow, it's simply going to skip these two steps and update only their name details and then show the alert message. So I can say Ross Geller, change, update my information, settings have been changed, right? If I refresh, we should see that last name update should still be there. Go back to account here, right? There's the last name. Okay, so I can change it back like this. All right, so now let's hook up the workflow for, oh, actually, let's look at one more thing in the workflow here for checking the password or for updating the password, and that is in the update credentials action. Here, we want to have a duplicate specifically for the password. I like to have these separate. Bubble does give you the ability to change everything all at once by checking the box, right? Change the email versus change the password. But I prefer to have them separate so it's easier to work with and really clearly see what action is doing what. So this one is for updating the email, and I'm going to rename my action so that I understand what this is for. And over here, I'm going to update the password. So for this one, we need the old password. We do not need to change email, but we do want to change password. New password's going to come from our new password input, which is that one there. And I am requiring a password confirmation. So this will be confirm password. And my my condition here, we can go off of, let's see, if we have values in those inputs, then we know that we want to change the password. So only when current password's value is not empty, and the confirm password's value is not empty, then we move forward with updating the credentials. Okay, so now we've addressed all of those things. Okay, and then finally, we'll also have this check password action run if we can see that we need to make a change to the password as well. So we can say, if the email address is not the current user's email, but then copy this and paste this. And I'm going to do just the same condition that I have here for update password. I'm going to copy this here and paste this there. Right, so I like to separate these things. I could even do it in two separate workflows depending on the condition I have at the event level. But in some cases, separating them out helps keep track of where everything is and everything gets their own sequence of actions. In other cases, it's more efficient for you, easier for you to manage to streamline them into combined actions. Really just depends on what we're doing. But I wanted to show you an approach here for this specifically. There's also, you can put these things in pop-ups. You can take them through a multi-step thing where they're looking at different screens at a time rather than seeing them in one form. Lots of different ways to do it, or even separate buttons per change. Some of these things could also be auto-bound to their fields. You can't auto-bind passwords or emails, but you can auto-bind, regular other custom fields, so text, pictures, things like that. All right, so let's finish this up by hooking up the workflow for saving our company information. So we'll go and create a workflow from this Save Changes button. I'm going to put this in my folder as well for account. And here we're going to make a change to the parent group's company. Again, because the Save Changes button is inside of that group where the data source is the current user's company. And the items that we have available to change here are the location, the logo, the name, and the website. So the location is going to come from that search box like this. The logo will come from the picture uploader. Okay, that value. The name will come from our input company name, and the website from our website input. We're just mapping everything. And then same thing here. I'm going to show the alert message like this. Now, keep in mind, if this is a more important change that only, admins of a company should be able to do, you can also incorporate the password check, right? This action here. This is not just for credentials. This is just for checking a user's password before the rest of the workflow runs. So any security-based flow where you need to confirm that somebody does have access, or just as another level of authorization, this is a really great action to run before. It does mean that you have to provide an input for them to type in their password. So some cases you could click on this button and show a pop-up first that says type in your password to proceed, and then you can check that password from there. But just be mindful that that action is not just for updating credentials. Okay, so let's preview the page and see if we can make some changes here to Ross's company. We go back to account, and let's change the website to cityuniversity.edu. Let's change the location to Brooklyn. You see how this is auto suggesting some locations. That's due to the Google connection. And I'll save changes. We see our changes have been saved. Let's just check the database real quick here for the companies and go to the City University right here. So I can see the location has changed to Brooklyn and that website has been modified. So we're good to go. All right, so hopefully this showed you a few different ways of incorporating designs around, the flow and the sequence of actions, especially around updating a user's credentials. There's many ways that you can go about doing this and leveraging collapsing groups, hidden groups, conditions for various things, knowing that you can split things up. You don't have to do everything off of one button click. And just visually presenting it to the user so that everything is clear where things are going to be saved and what is required to save things to them. All right, everyone, happy building.